Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Cup of Joe with Joe and Joe Podcast. I'm your host, Joe, and with me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Joe.
Joe, we have a brand new Makoto Shinkai film that we need to talk about.
Yep, right off the bat, full spoilers. See that left-hand side? There's a new little thing, Joe. I made it. It says spoilers, and there's a little bracket next to it. It's like, ding, yes, we have spoilers in this shit. So, we're talking about the latest Shinkai film, Suzume. It's been months since this thing released in Japan. We finally got it in America. And now we have seen it, and we are going to talk about it. Full spoilers. Get out if you don't want to hear that shit. All right, 3, 2, 1, here we go.
So, what do we know about this movie going into this? We knew there's a girl. We knew there's a door. And some of us knew there was also a chair. And that's about it.
I think I completely kept myself from watching any trailers, too. I was just like, none of this. Absolutely none of it. But
you were Matt Murdock, and I was Helen Keller.
Okay, apt analogies. I dig it. But yeah, so, Suzume, real quick up top. Joe, did you like this film?
I enjoyed it. I'm happy I saw it, but I'm probably not going to watch it again, and it's not my favorite.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the same boat as that, and I feel like I'm, as you like to say, a little bit more pessimistic when it comes to this shit, but also, I did look up to see, how many other reviews are out there right now, and, it did just come out, but aside from Stuckman, there's, no one else that has, a bigger following talking about it, and I'm just kind of sitting here wow, it seems like no one in the West gives a shit about this movie, and I kind of see why. It's not a lot of anything. So, okay. The one-word tagline that I used to describe this movie when we came out of it, I said that Suzume is the least common denominator of all of the elements that have made up the previous Shinkai films. What do I mean by that? I mean, it's essentially what you'd expect from Shinkai. So you got boy meets girl, in this case, girl meets boy, because we're following Suzume this time. There's love, they can't be together because supernatural bullshit, and then there's heartbreak, and then all of a sudden they can't be together until they can, and then bada bing bada boom, the movie's over. Cathartic emotional bullshit, Rad Wimps plays their song, and then the credits and all that sort of stuff, and you're just like, yep, that is indeed a Shinkai film. And unfortunately, so much of it pulls elements from every single one of his other movies. You've got aesthetic coloration of the pink and purple sky and this weird dimensional shit. And spoilers, we're getting into all this stuff in a second. And then you have all the phone stuff, all the animations, that sort of stuff. And these are elements from Your Name. And then of course, Weathering with You delves way more into the spiritual kind of stuff and the more fantastical elements with girls doing magic, and there's a water dragon in the sky and all this other kind of bullshit. And this one, it just kind of has this stuff, but it also
worms.
Yeah, it's got worms, and then it's got totems, and it's got talking cats, and these talking cats can transform into giant cat beasts that fight these giant worms from other dimensions, and you're just kind of what the fuck is happening? And none of it's explained too deeply, which in itself isn't really a problem. But at the same time, I don't care about any of it. I'm just sort of oh, I guess this is a thing, and then we move on. And it's the same thing with the characters for me too. What are your feelings on all these different elements here?
So I want to start with the things that I thought were good, and it's usually the things that are always good in a Shinkai film. We got the visuals, looking clean as always. Okay, great, no questions about that. Music, very good. Very, very nice. And I also think the premise for this movie, very cool. Very intriguing. But the execution, meh. So, Joseph, things that I wasn't really a big fan of.
Everything else.
Yes, everything else. I don't mind Suzume as a character. She seems pretty interesting, but again, the execution of it, I don't really learn too much about her. Maybe a little bit, but there's a lot of loose ends that don't end up being tied, which is fine. You don't have to tie them up, but there was just a lot of the stuff where I'm like, wait a minute, they didn't do anything with that. Where were they going with that? And it kind of was trying to do a lot of stuff, and it felt like honestly the movie didn't even have to be like 2 hours long.
It focused too much on how big picture some of this stuff was, and like it didn't dive nearly enough into like some of the characters or some of the other aspects I think would have made this much more interesting or significantly more compelling. Like Suzume, for instance, she's got a typical protagonist backstory, let's say, where she's living with her aunt because her mother died when she was young. Her father was never in the picture as far as we know. And she has this memento from her mom, the three-legged chair thing, that becomes the body of the guy that she's in love with, and she ends up sitting on it. We don't really know where his face is, so he might have been eating her ass and also the little kid's ass, but that's neither here nor there. We'll get into it, I promise. Aside from that, she's also like dealing with some of this other stuff, and she apparently entered this other dimension. I don't remember what. Oh, it's the Ever After? Is that what the name of the place is?
Correct.
Okay, cool. She crossed over into the Ever After when she was younger, and now she has the ability to like see the shit from the Ever After, which is the big worm. And it's like, that's all cool and everything. And then she meets, what's his name? Hang on, I have all the character lists pulled up because I was prepared for this, Joe. She meets, Sota. That's what his name is. She meets Sota. She sees him. She's like, oh my God, that guy is hot. And she's like biking to school. He calls back to her. He's like, hey, I'm looking for a door. And she's like, oh, there's some ruins on the mountain. He's like, cool, okay, I'm gonna go do that. So he goes and does that, and that's how she ends up seeing all the random crap that's happening because she ended up opening the door earlier and whatever. Point is, Suzume, she has some interesting character stuff with her. Throughout the entirety of the film, it's like a big road journey. A big road trip. Not a road journey. Who says road journey? Joe, cut all this. Okay, Joe. It's like a big road trip. And it's just kind of like, you meet a new character, you move on. You meet a new character, you move on. And all these characters are helping Suzume along her adventure, and she's there with Sota, who again is in the body of the three-legged chair thing. And they're trying to catch the cat Daijin, who was one of the... It's a marker that's supposed to like keep the two heads of the worm for the other dimension held down together, because there's one in Tokyo and there's one where she lived and she freed the one, and now the cat's following her and apparently loves her, and we don't really know why. There's, again, all over the place. That's kind of what the movie is. It's just like new element, little bit of development, but okay, not too much, because we got to move on to the next thing to keep the story moved along so we can get to this next part. Okay, and it's like that. I don't know, like I want to feel for Suzume, because she does end up going through a lot. Like this journey, it's quite harrowing. Like you're going along, you're trying to close all these doors. That's what the purpose of Sato is. He's a closer, as they call him. He's got a big old key. He looks like Hal. A lot of comparisons we can make here, but being able to actually slow down and take the time to learn more about Suzume and what her mindset is on all of this, I think would be really interesting. You never see how she really reacts, at least not in great detail, to the actual existence of a giant spiritual worm and another dimension and these doors and glowing keys with lightning effects. She's just kind of like, oh, this exists? All right, well, I'm horny for this guy who's now in the body of my chair, so I'm just going to take him around and we're going to do adventures of door closing and shit. And it's like, what? Okay. I mean, anime's shown me weirder things, but the vibes ain't exactly lining up here for that. This isn't that kind of story, you know?
Yeah, it was. There's again just a lot that didn't need to be there. I feel like the beginning's good. I was interested. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I like the introduction. All right. Honestly, I would have liked to learn more about the closers. I feel like that was actually really interesting, and we didn't really get it. What happened with Soda's grandpa, like out of nowhere? Like I feel like that was supposed to be a big thing, and it was just like, oh yeah, we just kind of just jumped over that, didn't we?
Yeah, like the things about the closers. How many are there still in this world? Because right now, it seems like Sota is the only one present in Japan doing any of this shit, because you never see another closer in the entire movie. It's literally just Suzume and Sota, and then the grandfather who's bedridden. Are there closers outside of Japan? Because, like, clearly, like, this worm is primarily, it's held down by the two markers in Japan. What about the rest of the world? Are there different worms for the rest of the world? Are there different dimensions with different worms? Are there creatures other than worms that can come out and do shit? Like, that's a kind of world building that I understand you're not going to totally get to, but it would have been neat to have a little bit more world building, being like, oh yeah, like in the West, they have like closers that deal with like something else or whatever. Soda's grandfather, the last time we see him when he's in the hospital bed, the other marker comes to him. Like the other, like the white cat Daijin is the one that Suzume gets and like is like in love with her for whatever reason. Again, I don't fucking know why. But the other marker is a black cat. And the black cat comes and sees Soda's grandfather, and the grandfather just goes, "Ah, it's you again." And it's like, what? Okay. So you guys know each other. Did you put the marker? Did you lay these two markers initially? Who are the markers? Because later on, Soda becomes a marker. So it's like, are all the markers people or other closers or something like that? Like what? There's a lot of questions and a lot of stuff that, again, it's glossed over. And I feel like if you cut some of all like this extra stuff and focused up more on some other things that would not matter more, but like you can make them matter more by like delving into them and giving them more reason for existing, or just kind of like seeing how they react to other characters and like seeing how those characters, how they're interacting with all this other crap going on. Like I just feel like it would tighten everything up and make me actually care more about what's happening, because I'm interested. I'm talking all this stuff about it. Like I'm interested, but it's not, like you say, execution. It's not there.
Honestly, my biggest thing that I didn't like was the romance. It just felt so out of nowhere. It didn't have to happen. There was no hints of romance besides ooh, dreamy boy, long hair. Like at no point is Soda like, oh, Suzume, it's just weird. It felt so forced. And again, you're talking to the king of romance movies, all right? Love them, even the cheesy ones. And this even did not sit that well with me. So if you strip it down to like the rough idea of what the story is, you're like, okay, that sounds interesting. That sounds pretty cool. A Makoto Shinkai movie that looks good, sounds good, and has this cool story. I like that. I've never really seen anything with that premise. Seems interesting. But then you zoom in and everything gets a little clearer and you're like, whoa, there's a lot of stuff going on and I don't really know where it all leads.
Speaking of stuff that I don't know where it leads, the timey-wimey bullshit in the Ever After. There is a dream that Suzume has. As it turns out, of course, it's a memory that she's really having of back when she was 4 and she first entered the Ever After, and she sees someone and we never see the person's face, so of course you don't know who it is, and this clues you in to be like, it's probably not who we're thinking. You're meant to think it's her mother, and she's like seeing her mother as her mother is handing her the chair in the Ever After, and then all of a sudden she's out of the Ever After. And then at the dream, that's the point where she wakes up when she gets the chair back. Then you realize when she's in the Ever After at the end, Ever After at the end, Ever After at the end. When she's there at the end with Hal, his name is Soda, but he's Hal from Howl's Moving Castle. And she's just like, oh, so here's the chair, because, he and the chair separated. And she sees the younger version of herself, because she had to enter the door that she entered way back then, because that's the only way into the Ever After. Again, story mechanical bullshit. Anyway, she goes over and she's like, oh, hey, little me. So I'm going to tell you some hard truths, and I'm gonna give you some inspirational and some feelings of hope and all that sort of stuff. And also, here's the 3-legged chair. And she hands it to her, and then she's like, all right, bye. And it's a closed time loop kind of a thing, because she had to be there to give herself the chair, and she had to be the little girl to receive the chair from her, and blah 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 blah. And it's just kind of like it's the worst utilized version of that kind of mechanic out of any of Shinkai's films, where it's like, again, Your Name does it wonderfully. And it's really cool to see how that can like affect things and how it will like shape the story going forward. This one, it doesn't really feel like it does anything to me. Some of the people that we saw it with, like, it was a very cathartic moment emotionally, like having the older version of Suzume talking to a much younger self going through a hard time. And, the older version of Suzume just went through all this crap as well. But it just doesn't feel like it needed to be, like, you could have had like a realization of some kind, or like Suzume was ruminating on that kind of that memory, and then had a different change in her like mentality or her outlook or something like that. Having her go into a different dimension, stake a big old worm with a couple of cat pendulums, and then give her younger self a chair because now we're closing a time loop. It's like, what? Did we need time loops in this movie? I don't think so.
So, what number would you give this movie out of 10?
Out of 10, I'd probably give it a 5. Because again, there's a lot of really great things about this movie. The animation, like all Shinkai films, top notch. It looks impeccable. Some of the, the motif of turning keys. Because like in the beginning, before we ever meet a closer, Suzume, like there are very distinct shots of Suzume locking her front door as she's leaving for school, and then it immediately cuts to her unlocking her bike so she can ride to school. And then, of course, when you're closing all the doors to the Ever After, you have to put the key into the big glowy key lock that appears when you do the chant, and then you turn the thing, and then a big worm in the sky explodes into water. Of course, naturally. And that stuff's great. Looks amazing. Sound design, soundtrack, score, the 3 S's, also impeccable. It's so good. Again, there's a chase scene in the beginning when they first start chasing the cat after Sota becomes the chair. It's like this insane, like, jazzy chase music, and you're just kind of like going along, and like the entire time that music, it's like your heartbeat sinks to it and you're just in it. You're just like, yeah, great, keep running, look at that chair go, it's only got 3 legs, look at him go, so much heart in that little chair, oh my god, that chair ate ass later on. But anyway, Joe, I can't get over the fact that this chair eats ass. I don't, oh my god.
They didn't, but the best part about that is, like, they acknowledged it. Like, literally, at one point, she goes to sit on the chair, and Soda's like, don't even think about it.
Absolutely not. I turned to one of our friends in the theater when that happened. Well, not when that happened, but like before that happened, I was just like, where is the face on that chair? And our friend was just like, that's a good question. And then we get the scene with the 2 kids, and the 2 kids are sitting in the chair, and it's kind of like, yeah, okay, this is, in my head, I was like, this could be very problematic. And then the 2 kids get up from the chair, and then Suzume's like, my turn, and the chair just goes, absolutely not. And we lost our shit, because we're just like, oh my god, that chair could have been eating children's asses. And then it does eventually get the chance to get Suzume's, because she ends up just sitting. She doesn't even wait for consent. She just puts it down, boom, sits right into it. Oh my god, Suzume, what is that? Is that the police sirens? Wee, coming for you. Oh wait, no, actually, it's for Soto, because he's 24 probably, and she's 16. Shinkai, I don't know what your childhood consisted of, but between Garden of Words, do you need help? We can send help.
We got a good foot shot in this movie.
Did we? Where?
You didn't see there was like nice clean foot shot and a nice shoe shot.
Oh, they
gotta have at least
when she was taking off the her socks, right? She like had to take off, and she had to like clean up her feet because they were all like bloody from when she was running. Yeah, but that wasn't. I did remembering it. I did clock it. I was like, oh, yep, Tarantino foot shot. But it's not a Tarantino foot shot. It's like, it's to show how like resilient she is, because she's like been going through all this shit, and she's just like, no, I'm getting Soda back. Not Soda, Sota. Joe. I gotta fucking do the T. Soda. That wasn't like an egregious fan servicey kind of moment or a shot. It was that was very clearly like you felt, no, this is character building. This is like, she's resilient. She's cleaning the blood off of the soles of her feet. She is bandaging those bitches up, and she's getting back out there. And then when she goes to leave, that's when she runs into hang on, I have his name up here. Where is it? Is it Tomoya, the friend, who's cool as fuck. I love him. That's another thing I love about this movie. Tomoya. He's so cool. And he's got the cool red convertible. And then all of a sudden Suzume's aunt comes in, and she hops in the car because she's like, no, you're not going anywhere without me. And the guy's just like, oh my god, every woman in this family is crazy. And then everyone in the audience is like, yeah, but it's the right kind of crazy for you, I bet. And then as they journey along, in the end, Tomoya get closer together, I'm like, they're totally gonna bang.
Definitely will. And again, I had no clue that there was room in this movie somehow that was a plot point that stood out. You know what I mean? Like, let's just put that in perspective.
What, the fact that this 20-something-year-old and the 40-something-year-old aunt are probably
this
gonna
was a
have
part of the story. This was an actual like this was like, yeah, we got to add this.
Yeah, like there are so many, and that's the thing. Again, this movie all over the place. There's so many little moments between them. Whether it's like about the different kind of music that he listens to while he's in the car, the fact that his car, he got it used and it's a piece of shit, and it's a convertible. And so when it starts raining, the thing doesn't fucking close. And then the part where the aunt starts screaming because one of the cat spirits makes her like angry and mean for some reason, but then the cat spirit's also totally fine with them and travels with them later on. Again, I don't understand the cat spirits. And so she goes to him, and he has the ice cream, and it's the vanilla fucking swirl, and he's trying to calm her down, and the vanilla swirl falls on the ground, and I'm like, is this an innuendo of some kind? What is happening here? And I'm just like, I hope they end up together. I hope they have fun together. You know, they deserve each other. They're probably going to be great. Big age range there too. It's like between like 10 to like 15 years, seemingly. Shinkai. What? Hey, come on. What is it? Come on. Is he married? Does he have a girlfriend? We need to figure this out. We need to see what the age difference between these Shinkai and his significant other is. Joe, I gotta know. I gotta know.
I give this movie a 6 out of 10. 5 for everything, and then 1 extra point for visuals and music. It's not bad. We're gonna forget it happened.
Yeah. It's like, I'll like listen to an album once to find the songs that I enjoy and put them on a playlist. I'm like that with directors now, especially Shinkai, because it's like, if this is his EP, he's got like, I don't know, 6, 7 films. The one single that I love the most from this EP is Your Name. It does everything Shinkai does the best. Everything else outside of that, like, granted, they are different kind of stories, and like they're trying to do different kind of things, but really Your Name is the best distillation of all of those Shinkai-isms. This, while it's fine and kind of meh, it's not bad, again, it's just kind of whatever, because I've seen it done better by him in his 2 previous movies, and again, Your Name being the best version of that. So, Suzume, from the 2 Joes, it's fine, it's okay, it's forgettable, kind of, because there's already better versions of it. It's not a great glowing endorsement, but if you're going through all the Shinkai films, this one's not going to make you want to pull your hair out, so I guess that's good.
Joe, I agree with you about the Your Name, but I gotta say, I am a pretty big 5 centimeter per second simp, so I'm gonna throw that one up there too.
All right, do it.
But yes, Suzume. You don't have to go to the theater. You can just wait for this to go on Crunchyroll or whatever the hell it's gonna go on, and you can watch it, and you'll be like, okay, that was cool, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna be like, let's watch Your Name and Weathering with You later.
Let's watch Your Name again for the 50th time.
That's literally how I felt leaving the theater, but just thinking about it, I was like, nah, it's better.
It's yeah. Thinking about it, I'm like, no, it's definitely better. Yeah. So, Suzume, have you seen it? God, I hope you have, because we just spoiled the shit out of it. Hope you enjoyed us 2 talking about it, and hope you enjoy the film as well. With all that being said, everyone, always remember, we'll love you, we'll leave you, and goodbye.